Hey, I'm Kristen, a somatic experience practitioner from Venice Beach, California, and this channel is about body-based wisdom, personal truth, and self-reclamation. And we have tarot again today to reflect on all of those things. I am doing this reading about someone on your mind. So it's about clarity, whatever clarity you need. What's up with this connection? What do we need to know? This is probably going to be about a love interest for many of you, but it could be about anybody in your life. It could be about work, could be about a friendship. If you've come for love and something else shows up, just ride with it. All right, one has fallen out. So before I've asked any questions, this Four of Cups has fallen out. So reflecting on what it is you really want based on what you have not wanted in the past. But it's important to not allow yourself to sit in a depressed, sometimes we can get over reflective and really kind of let ourselves languish too much in, we want to feel, but we don't want to allow ourselves to, stay in a place where it's like, this reflection it's not body-based. It's not so much feeling, it's really overthinking. And so a lot of the negative feelings, the stuck feelings, the anxiety, the depression is about overthinking and playing the story over and over again in your mind. Perhaps you're thinking about several different events that happened with someone, and you're replaying in your mind what they did to you, what happened, what you did, how you should have responded at the time, what you didn't do. And it's never really, at some point we kind of have to jump out of the loop of it, right? So that's for you. So where is this person now that we're thinking about? Cards are jumping. So it was the High Priestess in reverse. So it's somebody who is not really grounded in any sense of intuition. Like they're not following their intuition. They're not following the natural flow. They're not tuning into their deep feelings at the moment. And perhaps if you're somebody who does do those things and you're highly intuitive and you're a highly sensitive person, perhaps there was this misalignment in just who they are and how they, move through the world and how you move through the world. So what is this person reflecting back at you that's important for you to know? What is this person reflecting to you, back at you, that you need to know? That there's something not over or done yet. And it's like, when I saw that this was in the reverse, I was so hoping it would be here. Because this is the loop to me. And this is the loop that they are running in their life, and the stories, and how they are in a trauma vortex looping from whatever it is that has happened with them. And because that's where they live, it's mirroring back to you, perhaps an older way of being that you used to be, or it's a tendency that you have to do that. I mean, look, I'm raising my hand because I do it too. We're human beings. So there's always a tendency to perhaps, fall back into, something, a way that we used to behave, or a pattern of thinking that we used to be in. And sometimes it can get initiated or activated in the presence of somebody who's doing that. And perhaps this person on the outside doesn't look like they are doing that. They could come across like somebody who is highly grounded. They could be somebody who is, quite intellectual. Um, but they are somebody who is looking at their past and what it is that they want with a sense of, turning this loop over and over again. So they're looking at what they want without clarity. They're looking at it with a sense of confusion. But and then kind of like saying, oh well, you're so emotional, or everything has to be, your gut, your intuition. Why aren't you thinking things more, analyzing things more? How come you're not being more intellectual about something? And it's not that you are not a very intellectual person who is capable of analyzing and looking at the logistics of something. I think that you already have done that. I think that you've seen like the very clear markers, but for whatever reason, there could be potentially some pull to this person. Like what is it about this person? What is it that seems to work well, or what is it that is attractive about this person, that even though you have the smarts, right? You're analyzing, you're seeing, but then you're also taking that a beautiful intelligence that you have, like your wonderful brain, and you're allowing it to sort of take over and then turn over stories that kind of allow what they're doing to make more sense, even though it doesn't feel good. And it's actually initiating some kind of old way of looking at life or moving through life, or it's initiating the sense of you to overanalyze and literally loop over and over, the story, and create all this meaning making, almost to justify or validate to some degree. I mean, we all do it, especially when we like someone. And there are certain things. So what is it about this person that turns you on? Some of you came from, they're a rebound person. You just broke up with someone else. And this person is perhaps completely different from who you were with before. Or in general, this person just seems like, I used to be with this kind of person and that didn't work. Now this person's like this. You are trying to end a cycle. You're trying to end a certain cycle around how you look at intimacy and what intimacy has been like for you in the past with others. Like you are, something about this person made you feel like it's going to be different this time. I'm going to break this cycle, but you're not breaking it. You just get a little bit more. So something felt very hopeful for you, or it felt, it's so radically different than what the person before or the people before, that you thought, yeah, I'm going to go in this direction because this other stuff hasn't worked. Oh, this just came up in the other reading. I just did another reading that's going to come out this week as well. And 2 of these cards showed up in that reading, so that may be synchronistic for you, and maybe a sign you're supposed to hop over to another reading. Perhaps it's the storylines are going to interconnect for you. But there was this sense of hope. There was this sense of, this person could have been very different from you in that for some of you, this person was older. They seemed wise. They seemed worldly. They seemed like somebody who was, like the king of the castle. This person could have been a very ambitious person, somebody who was in a leadership position. They made you feel like you were going in a different direction, and that you were leaving behind old ways of being passionate. Like perhaps you also could have led with a certain kind of physical chemistry, or having it be, I feel super, super attracted to this person. This could have been someone that perhaps there was a more intellectual connection. There was conversation. There was, that kind of intellectual connection. It wasn't all about just sex and intimacy or the physical. And this new kind of connection, whether it be more about culture, intellect, it was something different. You connected on something different. Perhaps this person was in your industry even, but at a different part of your industry. So, I live in California, so maybe you both work in Hollywood, but they're a producer and you are a costume designer. So, or this person is, does big finance or is a lawyer for, studios, and, you are the actor, or you are the person who designs the music or the lighting, or vice versa. But it felt like, oh, there's something about them that seems familiar. They can understand my world. And it wasn't all about, I want to say love at first sight, but also it could be lust at first sight. And there's nothing wrong with that. My Aunt Chris slept with my Uncle Peter on their first date, and they got married and were together for like decades and have a kid. So it's like, I'm not saying, it has to feel right, but there was something about how you were moving around your sexuality and feeling that physical pull, that this person felt very different. And then they became hot. You were turned on through this whole other avenue. And what I want to say is, because it was different, right? It was the opposite of perhaps what that you had before. That part of that attraction, part of that, that pull towards something new, something that seemed adventurous, or, we all like variety to some degree. And variety is a turn on, so, perhaps they introduced you to a lot of different things, right? I'm calling this, emotional stability and legacy. It felt like this way in the other reading too. Perhaps they had a family, or, were divorced, but it felt like, oh wow. I mean, for some of you, I think this is coming through, and it's not going to be for everybody, but they were divorced and they have a good relationship and have a good parenting relationship with the ex, and you saw that as something that was like, wow, this is a really cool person. They have this really cool, it's something that's really working for them, and that was inspiring. It kind of made you feel like they were an emotionally stable person, or someone that you could create something with, who understood and valued commitment, because even though a marriage didn't work, they were still committed to caring in the well-being of their ex and making sure that parenting was a priority. For some of you, that was important. But boundaries. There was something about this person that made you feel you could have your boundaries in place, or perhaps you put up certain boundaries that you never had before, and they were okay with it. Like maybe, you wanted to spend more time with them before intimacy, or, there was something that it felt like you could put up boundaries, and because you felt that your boundaries were accepted, then you felt you could loosen those boundaries, because it was sort of like a boundary accepted, I feel good. Boundary accepted, I feel good. And then you let down the boundaries. And often when we let down boundaries and other people are see us letting down our boundaries, that can activate, their personal processes around love, intimacy, relationship, and their truth. So it could have been that this was really good for you, this particular relationship, because it was like a breakthrough. It was a breath of fresh air in many ways. It allowed you to practice and test things out. But, maybe this is not the person that's the long-term person. Let's get one or two of these. Anything on this? What else on this person? So I have a no. Maybe you need to tell them no about something. And maybe that's part of your breakthrough, and you're practicing, you know, taking the wisdom, taking the experience, taking what you know you want to say yes to, what you know you want to say no to, and trusting that if this is the right person that you're meant to move forward with, they're going to be okay with your no. Or at least you can have a conversation about it that's productive and meaningful. That one flew out. So reconsider, okay? And then I'm gonna grab this top one here, and it's release desire to control. So if something is not happening, don't feel like you need to control it. In trying to control it, in that resistance, that's where we feel the most emotional pain. That's where we get ourselves stuck. That's where we put ourselves back into the loop of the old stories and the old relationships. Don't let whatever is going on here drag you back and activate reevaluating every relationship from the past that hasn't worked. I think that this is a win. I think that this was a strength building, connection. And I think that, it's like my Aunt Chris always said, dates are like buses. Another one will come around in 20 minutes. I promise. I'm going to leave it at that for today. Comment below. Let me know what you're resonating with, or anything else that you want to share with the community. Give me a thumbs up, as it's a wonderful way to say thank you and to help my channel grow. And please consider joining the channel. Come hang out with me. We'll have talks. We'll have a good time. We'll talk about love. We'll talk about intimacy, and above all else, about our own personal revolutions. And that is all for today. See you next time. Bye.